Yerp, this perp back with another video, and I just got done watching Elevator Game. This is a brand new horror movie that just was put out on Shudder. This was supposed to come out a while ago, got delayed for some odd reason. But it's all good. Finally got around to watching it. I was kind of anticipating this, didn't really have a lot of high expectations. I barely kind of watched the trailer. I just kind of knew a little bit of the premise where they play this elevator game and there's this really vengeful spirit behind it. That's all I knew going into it. Now, after watching it, it's definitely a mixed bag. There are definitely things that I like about it, but then there's a lot of things that were left to be desired or just very disappointing. A lot of missed opportunities, and maybe they could fix that if they decide to give this a sequel, if this turns into like a little franchise or something like that. We'll have to see. Just based on this movie, I don't know if the interest will be there, but pretty much the premise of this, like I said, is a vengeful spirit that is kind of summoned through this elevator game. We see this in the beginning of the movie with this character named Becky, and Becky is a pretty important character throughout this movie. And with her character, we see how the game is played from the very beginning, where you have to press these individual buttons and go to these, it's kind of like a code to kind of follow, where you have to press level 4, then 2, then 6, then 2, then 10 again, and then 5, and close your eyes and don't look or else. But then things kind of get interesting as we get introduced to our main characters, our group of characters. I wouldn't say it gets interesting, because that's another flaw of this movie, is just the way that they develop these characters. With it only being an hour and 30 something minutes, I didn't have any really attachment to any of these characters, that being Maddie, Chris, Ryan, Kevin, Izzy, and Chloe. They all these kind of social media influencers or creators, if you want to call them that. And this is what they pretty much do, play all these scary online games. All of their content is based off of like urban legends, spooky stories, and whatnot. The brand new intern, though, is Ryan, and they don't do a really good job of hiding exactly who he is or what he wants, but all you know is there's something suspicious about his character. And I wish they kind of did a better job of layering that throughout the film, because it was just obvious. Because it's like, okay, he's obviously setting these people up, and when it gets revealed what exactly he has planned, is this was all his part of the plan to get them to play this game, but then also ask them to help find his sister Becky in the beginning of the movie, which it's like, you could have just asked them straight up, like, could you help me look for my sister? You didn't have to really trick them into doing that. That was just a weird kind of choice with these certain characters. They just make weird decisions. That aside, they all start to play the game. Something ends up fucking up, and now they're all dying one by one. And I appreciate the practical effects, and also the fifth floor woman. I think they did a interesting job with just her character design and keeping her lurking into the shadows. And there are a handful or just a couple of really effective shots, but also is another disappointing aspect to this movie, which I think they could have done a better job of displaying that character without having to waste a lot of time. Because I feel like a good chunk of this movie wastes too much time with unnecessary shit, where we should have got certain backstories towards the beginning of the movie and not towards like the very end. And the pacing is just very off in this first movie, because all the really stuff that you're kind of looking for, the brutality and the violence and the kills, are sprinkled throughout the last like 30 minutes of this film. And I just wish they would have gotten to certain parts a little bit quicker. Because it's like I said, this movie's only an hour and 30 minutes, so the pacing should kind of flow pretty smoothly, where it was kind of like a lot of bumpy roads along the way, sprinkled with a little bit of intriguing, creative scares. I just think they could have done something a little bit more interesting. It just kind of came off more generic than creative at some times. And like I said, maybe they will do a sequel and they can improve on certain aspects, because I would definitely be down to kind of see a sequel, because they do allude to the origins of how this game got started decades ago, so we could kind of get a different type of time period, because I think that would be interesting to kind of see. I would say check this out overall for yourself. If you have Shudder and you're just looking for a brand new horror movie, you might actually love this. Like I said, there's some really decent kills. It's just not that many that I'm satisfied with, which they could have just cut a lot of the fat out and sped a little bit of dialogue, or worked on a little bit of the dialogue, tighten it up a little bit. It's just kind of all over the place, and it's definitely going to be a mixed bag, I think, for a lot of people. It's definitely a mixed bag for me. But if you get around to seeing it, let me know your thoughts of this movie in the comments below. Till next time, I'm out.